Hello everyone, I'm here today to talk to you about the shortlist of the International Booker Prize and what I think my winners might be. I've read all of the books in the shortlist now, and I have some opinions on things, so I just wanted to talk to you about all of the books. And if you want more detailed reviews, I have reviewed every single book in the shortlist, so I will link those videos down below. But yeah, I don't have any particular order to do this, so let's just start with Corpse Bunny by Bora Chang, which is a collection of short stories, and they deal with a lot of topics regarding patriarchy and capitalism. So it's supposed to be horror. I think it's more like scatological and gross and just, yeah, not... It was not so impactful for me. I understand most people say that the first two stories were quite impactful. I just found them gross, and then after that everything goes a little bit down from there, for me at least. But I have seen people that have like the short story collection that they also have different opinions. There's a very different feel from the first two stories to the rest of the collection, so it feels like disconnected, the two parts. And I think that to win a prize like this with a short story collection, all of the short stories should be really strong, and preferably as well that they all connect in some kind of way. Like, it doesn't have to be interconnected short stories, but it should be like a cohesive collection, which this is not. So for those reasons, even taking away my personal feelings about the stories, I think that short stories it's very difficult for them to win a prize like this, and I don't think these ones are going to be the ones. So yeah, I think that this one is not gonna win, but let me know if you disagree with me. Then we have Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. I read this more than 2 years ago, so my memory on this is fuzzy, and I said before that I had reviews for all of the books. I haven't done a review for this one because I read it so long ago, and I did not review it as a single review then, so I'm sorry, but I don't have a review for Heaven. But yeah, Heaven is about this boy that is bullied in school in Japan, and he meets another girl that is also bullied, and they have all this very philosophical conversation and supposedly deep conversations about life and what's happening to them, and it's very raw and very brutal at times. The bullying is quite severe, and I did like the conversations sometimes. I thought they were interesting, but for me it just felt very young, because the protagonists are young, right? But the kind of things that you think are profound when you're 18, and maybe they are not so profound anymore. So yeah, for me it was okay, but I don't think it deserves all this hype that it's getting. And yeah, for me, I don't think it's. I would be surprised if it wins, let's say. I don't think it will be a completely undeserving winner, but I think that the other books in the shortlist are probably more accomplished than this one, because this one, I mean, the story, it's and the conversations are fine enough, but it doesn't do anything beyond what other books do, I think. So it's not, I don't think it's innovative enough. Which brings me to the next book, Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro. I love this book. I think it's my favorite from all of the ones that I have read from the shortlist, and probably also from the long list. It's about this old woman that has Parkinson's disease, and her daughter died, and the police decided that everything indicated that it was a suicide, but this woman doesn't accept that her daughter committed suicide, so she goes out into the city in Argentina and Buenos Aires, and tries to find the truth because she knows that her daughter didn't kill herself. That's what she keeps saying. And we see it has so much packed in such a small book. It talks about grief, but it also talks about motherhood and feminism and disability, because the book is divided, like the parts are divided based on when this woman has to take her medicine to be able to operate, and also like the people that she goes to see have a past that collided with her at some point in very interesting ways. And there is this conversation at the end that is amazing about motherhood, and I loved it. So yeah, this book does a lot in terms of themes and in terms of packing a lot in a small book without feeling overwhelming. Like it just feels very natural, and I think that's a skill that not many people have, and I think it's amazing what she does. But even though it's my favorite, I don't think it's going to win, just because I feel like, again, it's not innovative enough in the language, the way that something like Tomb of Sand or the septology by Fosse is. Elena Knows is not that kind of innovative. It's just very good at telling a story and packing a lot of themes and a lot of social commentary in it without being overpowering and overwhelming. Because the book is not about how hard the life of a disabled person is, or how hard the life of mother is, or whatever. It's not in your face like that, but you do get that information from the book just because the people happen to have it. So yeah, like I think it's very accomplished and it's very masterful, but there is something on it that it doesn't feel literary enough to win the International Booker. So I will be super happy if it does, but my gut, it's telling me that it won't. So yeah, that's that for Elena Knows. Then we have the septology, and the last book is the one that is nominated, A New Name by John Fosse. I read the whole trilogy because I personally think that even if a prize just nominates the third one in a trilogy, it doesn't mean that you can read it by itself. That's not how the author intended it. So I read the whole trilogy, and I'm glad that I did it that way, because actually I think the last book is the weakest of the three. And I personally didn't particularly enjoy this book. The themes in it don't appeal to me, and the style of writing doesn't appeal to me. It's in this one very long sentence and very stream of consciousness kind of narrative, and it talks a lot about religion and art, and a lot of drunk males being drunk. It is a lot about a lot of things like that, which are all things that I don't normally gel with very well, but I think that what it was trying to do, which is something I personally don't enjoy, but it was very successful at doing what it was doing, and I think that's why a lot of people really enjoyed this book. And it does do a good job at making you feel that breathlessness and that continuous flow of thoughts that everyone has in their head. I think that in that sense it is successful. I also was very bothered about all the things about the names, because this book is about Asle, which is a painter and lives in rural Norway, and he happens to have a namesake in the nearby town that has the same name, the same profession, very similar past, and very similar interests and vices, like things that he does. They are very similar to the point where you think sometimes if it's the same person, but yeah, so I was expecting that there will be some reason why this is happening, and it just happens to be like there's no reasoning, and that bothered me a lot, because it's just, I understand it's the concept of the book, and it's trying to be sort of a thought experiment of sorts, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I was very annoyed by that. But anyway, apart from my personal feelings of it, I think it is an accomplished book, an accomplished septology. But I think the last book is the weakest of the three. Personally, I think the second one was the best for me. Maybe the second part, so like the second part of the first book, but the second book I think is the one I enjoy the most. And I think that if this wins, which I think it has chance to win, it will be as a trilogy. I don't think it will be just for the third book. The first book was shortlisted for the International Booker before, and it didn't win. So if this one wins, I think it will be as a recognition of John Fosse and his work throughout, not so much for this particular book. That's just my opinion, but I think it is a contender, a strong contender for it, because of the way that it uses the language, and the way that it makes you feel those primary feelings, and also because like the exploration of the topics and the thoughts that it's doing, I think they're good. They're just not something I am interested in. So yeah, that one is that. And then we have Tomb of Sand by Cretandialis Sri, something like that. And this one is it made history because it's the first Hindu translated novel to make it to the International Booker, but it's not in the list for that. This is here for its own merit, I think. I personally didn't enjoy all parts of it. I enjoyed it. I had very high hopes for this. I think this one was the one I was most excited about. And even though I liked part of it, the narration is a bit jumpy and incongruous in a way. So this book is about an old woman in India that lived through partition, and then we see her later in life, and her relationship with her daughter especially, but also her sons. And yeah, for me, the part that I was very interested in was about partition, and that only was heavily discussed at the end of the book. We see a lot more about this woman kind of doing crazy things sometimes, and just being an old woman, and we have a lot of symbolism that probably went through my head. There was a lot of crows in the book, and it's very, very playful with the language as well, which is something that I don't think I always appreciated, just because English is not my first language, so I couldn't grasp all of the playfulness. So I think this one went a bit over my head, but I appreciated that it's a good book, and I read it really fast for how long it is, and it is it's a good book. I enjoyed parts of it. I was just lost in other parts. So yeah, this one it's hard for me to say too much about it. So yeah, this one, I think it has a very good shot of winning because of it's so playful with language, and it has also so many topics, and it also explored things that are normally not showcased in this prize, which is always a plus, I think. I think the International Booker is a lot more bold in their choices, much more than the Booker. So I think this one it's a bold book, and I think it has a very good shot of winning. Also, from what I have heard from native speakers, like the way that language works, which I'm not sure I completely grasped, but the way that language works in this book is very impressive to be translated. And that's something that, for example, I felt very strongly in The Adventures of China Iron, which was nominated and shortlisted like 2 years ago. When I was reading that book, like every other sentence, I was thinking, how did the translator translate this? So a lot of people had that feeling with Tom of Sand, which I think for a prize about translated fiction is always a plus. So yeah, I think Tom of Sand is a very strong contender, and I will be happy if it wins. And then the last book in the shortlist is The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk, which I enjoyed. Again, a lot of things went over my head because this is a humongous historical fiction book about 18th century Poland and Eastern Europe, and the Judaism and Christianity, the branches of Judaism and Christianity happening in that area, especially the life of Jacob Frank, which was someone that was he kind of invented a new branch of Judaism called Frankism, in which he adopted a lot of Christian traditions into Judaism, and it kind of follows him and his followers, and it's this sweeping historical fiction, and I enjoyed a lot of things about this. I think a lot of it also went over my head because I'm not super familiar with the history of that area and that time, but I think like I couldn't stop admiring what an accomplishment that book was and what an accomplishment it is to translate it as well. I think it was amazing, all the research and all the attention to detail that went into that book, and also like the prose, like sentence to sentence level, was very accomplished as well. So I think that for me, The Books of Jacob is like my winner, in the sense of I think it's the one that should win, even if I enjoyed Elena Knows More on a pure enjoyment level, because it's a lot easier to get into and read and get swept by. I think that Books of Jacob is such an accomplishment that I admire it more. So I think it's the one that, for me, if I was a judge, the one that I will advocate for it to win. I don't know if that will be the case, because also Olga Tokarczuk has already won the International Booker, so I don't know if they will like to give it to her again. The International Booker has not been around for that long. It has been around for maybe 6 years, 7 years, I think. So for one author to win twice a prize that has been around for 7 years, it's I don't know if they would want to do that. But in terms of accomplishment, I think that one is very accomplished. But yeah, as I said, I don't know what the judges will think about that. I think that either the septology, Tomb of Sand, or the Books of Jacob are the three that I think have the most possibilities to win. The Books of Jacob is the one that I would want to win, and then Tomb of Sand and I will be happy with that as well. Septology, I will be a bit sour, but I think it will be deserved as well. So yeah, it's not so clear cut, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the shortlist for the International Booker and my predictions for the win. Let me know what you think about the list, if you have read any of the books, if you have any favorite to win, and until next video, bye!